Hey guys, what's up? It's Deprimido. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here in FL Studio and I'm going to be breaking down iann dior type beats. Now there's kind of two types of iann dior type beats, so I'm just going to briefly cover the first type, but then we'll go more in depth on the second type. So the first type is kind of more just Juice WRLD type beats. This is the kind of stuff that he had on his first album. This is mostly just like that really mira type of style, guitars, pianos, very simple drums, hard 808s, stuff like that. So that's kind of just how his original beats were. They're pretty much just Juice WRLD beats. Now his second type of beats are what's more well known for him. Now the second type of beats that he uses mostly is kind of what we're going to be covering today, and it's more pop punk. A lot of times they're going to have real drums as well as trap drums, lots of guitars, but more like electric guitars with like muted eighth notes and stuff like that. Very pop punk influenced. So we're going to be doing a few different guitar melodies today, but this is the first one. It's just going to be the base of the melody. Keep in mind this has no effects or any mixing done to it, and this is what it sounds like. Now you're really going to want to use a real guitar for these melodies. If you don't have a real guitar or you can't play one, then I would suggest you use samples, but there's really no way that you can make this type of sound with a VST. You're pretty much just going to need to do it with a real guitar. When you're making your guitar loops, the first thing you want to do is kind of get the idea in your head and figure that out. Then you can record it. If you need to, you can denoise it in Edison, and then you just want to quantize it. I made a video going into better detail on each of those steps and breaking down how to really write these loops and come up with them, which I will put in the card right above. So next we're going to start going on counter melodies, and we're going to just use a guitar again. Guitars are pretty much the only sound that's really going to be in these beats in terms of the melodies for the most part. You could also sometimes have pianos or bells or just little sound effects and stuff, but for like the main melodic components, it's mostly going to be guitars. This is what the counter melody sounds like. Then I did something that I like to do a lot with different top melodies on guitars. I just copied it over, made it unique, and pitched it up an octave. Then you can turn it down a lot so it's not overpowering, and then it'll just kind of add this nice sparkle or shine to the melody. This is what it sounds like. And finally, I just added this muted eighth note pattern that's going to be in a lot of these beats. It just follows the same melody as these patterns, but I just muted it and played it like that. This is what it sounds like. One thing with these guitar melodies is you just want to make sure that they aren't perfect. Obviously, you're going to want to quantize them and make sure you've got a good tone and all that, but you don't want to have just super pristine perfect playing, or else it's just going to sound like super robotic and not very good. So next we're going to get into some effects. Okay, so I've just mixed the whole melody down, so let's get into some of the effects. So starting off on this main part of the melody, we've just got a compressor. Then we've got this EQ. It's a little bit complicated, but we just cut out some of the lows and then we ducked off the lows, kind of just going down in a slope. Then there was a few frequencies that I liked that I boosted, and then I cut out some of the highs. This looks pretty drastic, but it's actually not super noticeable when you listen to it. Then I added Camel Crusher. I just turned the compression up some, turned off that mode, added a little bit of distortion, not very much. Then I've got Fresh Air. This is also one that you can't hear so much, but it kind of just boosts some of the high-end frequencies and makes it a little bit more spacey. And then we've just got a pretty normal reverb. Moving on to the second part, we've got that same compressor, then we just have wider just a little bit, then pretty much the same reverb, and then I just threw on J37. I put it to the guitar amp preset and turned down the wet knob a little bit. Then we've got the exact same thing for this higher pitched version, although I just turned J37 all the way up. Then for the muted power chords, we've just got Guitar Rig. I just went with the cheesy 80s metal lead preset, and then we've also gotten EQ, just boosting some of the lows right there, then cutting out some of the lows right there, and then just cutting out some of the highs. I really liked this frequency around here, so I wanted to keep that as present as possible. Then I just leveled them so that nothing is too overpowering and so that they just kind of sound nice together. This is what it sounds like now. now let's just hop into the drums. So we're actually going to do two sections for the drums. The first section is going to be a trap pattern, and it's just going to be super simple. We're pretty much just going to go with a two-step hi-hat pattern and put a roll on one. This is honestly the same hi-hat pattern that's used in most of his songs. They're really just very simple trap drum patterns. Then we can just add a clap. And then you're going to want to use kind of like a long sustained but really clean 808. So the spins 808 is good. Then for the 808 pattern, you're just going to go with something really simple and standard like this, and then you can match it up with a kick. I'm not really going through these patterns too much because this isn't really the interesting part of the drums. This is just really simple, and pretty much anybody can do these types of drums. It's not hard. But this is what the trap drum section sounds like. So now getting into the fun part, we're going to do kind of like an acoustic pop punk type of drum pattern. So the hardest part is finding decent samples for this, but even that isn't too hard. You can just look up pop punk drum kit Reddit and scroll through, and eventually you'll find one. So the first thing we're going to add is going to be a hi-hat. So what you're kind of going to want to do is come here and go fill each 4 steps. Then highlight it and bring it over so that each 2 steps are filled, and then just scroll down on your mouse wheel and hold Alt, and that'll turn the velocities down, and then just press Alt R, and that's going to randomize it. Just be careful not to over randomize it. A lot of people do this. Real drummers aren't so bad that they're like all over the place in terms of velocity. All right, real drummers are good drummers. They're not going to be perfect because they're not robots, but they're good drummers, and so they're going to be, pretty close. So you don't want to over randomize it. Just do it a little bit. So here's an example of what the hi-hat could sound like. Also, this is probably common sense to most of you, but don't do hi-hat rolls with a real hi-hat. That's not a thing that real drummers do, so don't do it because it's not going to work and it's not going to sound good. Next, we added in a snare sound. Again, just randomize it a little bit, not too much. And then with this one, it's going to be pretty much twice as fast as the trap one usually. Trap ones usually come on 3. This is probably going to be on 2 and 4. It depends. You don't have to do that, but that's just kind of what works well. This is what it sounds like. Then we've got a kick. This is going to be, fairly simple to a regular trap kick, but it's definitely just going to be a different sound. Also make sure you randomize it just a little bit. And also a lot of times with trap kicks, you'll want to like clip them and stuff. Don't do that with these types of kicks. It's not going to sound very good, but this is what it sounds like. And finally, we added in a cymbal, a crash cymbal to be exact. You could just put this on 1 if you want. That's going to be really common. But for like hooks and choruses in pop punk music, a lot of times they're just going to be riding the crash. So it's just going to be every beat pretty much. Then after you've got all the main drums completed, you can add some drum fills and stuff as you want to, but you don't necessarily have to. So now I've just mixed the beat. If you want to see how I mix my beats, you can check out my mix tutorial, which is going to be in the card. So this is what the trap section sounds like. And this is what the punk section sounds like. The only thing in terms of arrangement that I will mention for these beats is a lot of times they're going to kind of start like this. So you'll have like the main melody, then maybe you'll add in a little bit of a counter melody for the intro, and then after that 8 bars, you'll add in just the hi-hat and the clap. Just leave the melody exactly how it is. And then for the next 8 bars, you could add in the rest of the melody or more of the melody, but you're definitely going to add in the 808 and the kick, and a lot of times you're going to do a cut on the hi-hat right before then. So that's something that happens pretty often in these beats. In fact, almost all of them are like that, but you don't necessarily have to do it. It's just something that's pretty common, so if you want to, you can. But otherwise, that's about it. So I'm going to play the beat at the end of the video, but thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe. Also, make sure you go check out my 200 sub loop kit that just came out. I'm doing another one when I reach 300, so make sure you subscribe so we can get that. Also, go follow me on Instagram. When I reach 2,000 followers, I'm dropping a free MIDI kit, so definitely go do that. But otherwise, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.